Hello and welcome to the Get Better in Chelmsford podcast with your hosts Richard Brinkley and myself, Tasha Katz. This is the podcast where we talk all about the no-nonsense side of marketing, where we champion Chelmsford-based businesses and entrepreneurs who are testing, learning and growing, and where we discover that the journey is often more exciting than the destination.
James, welcome to the Get Better in Chelmsford podcast. Great to have you on.
Thanks for inviting me.
So Integra Data Solutions. I think this one's quite interesting from my viewpoint. I think there's two angles to it. One, it's great to have you on, local business, nice success, growing story, and all those kind of wonderful things. We'll talk about marketing, what that means to you, but also the fact that you are so into data. And my personal feeling is that most businesses don't understand data and what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, and so on, or they just don't use it enough. And that first party data can be really valuable to us. So
yeah,
I think I would love at some point to cover both those stories.
No.
But as is tradition, we'll start with a question. What is marketing to you? What does it really mean?
It's a really good question. Okay, so being a data business, I think marketing to me is really understanding the right audience, who that audience should be that you should be reaching out to at the right time. So if you can understand who your audience is, then you've got an opportunity. And the way that we like to do it is that we like to get under the hood of, if we can, of transactional customer data. First of all, to analyze that, to understand what do their current customers look like. Because that's a great starting point for us. If we know what those customers look like, we can then build a model to identify more customers that are in the same profile. So that to me is what marketing is to me. It's from a data point of view, because it's great having all this wonderful creatives, but if it's going to the wrong audience, it's not going to achieve the results that the customers want.
From an attitudes perspective, because as you talk, what triggers in my mind is that I would imagine the majority of people that come to you and say, I want to grow my business or whatever that might be, will already have a preconceived idea about what they want to sell, why they're selling it, and so on. So how do people react when you kind of go, actually, I'm not really worried about that at the moment. Actually, let me work out who your customers are and what they want, rather than you projecting onto them. So in a way, the way you're selling your business and the way it's set up is geared to change people's mindset, really.
Yeah, kind of. I think really it's just a great start. Sometimes when when clients come to us and they say that, they've also got an idea of who they believe their customers are. And sometimes it can be a bit of sort of like, once we've actually done the analysis, they may think their clients are one thing, and it turns out that actually they're not quite where they think or thought they were, which can be quite interesting when you look at the results. The other thing that we can also do as well, we actually identify it maybe only really your best spend is coming from really the top 5% of all their customers, and that can be really quite interesting. And we can also look at it at the other end as well, in terms of actually you've got loads of customers, but a lot of them actually don't really make you much money at all. And it's really a case of then how we can transform that into actually focusing on the top of funnel to make sure that you've got those recurring revenues that come back as well, people that are actually going to continually spend with them. So that's also quite interesting.
How does that how does that prospect normally react? So I can see that probably in some ways they're like, oh, that's really good stuff to know, but often can they be like, oh, I just want to do this, can you just give me what I want? I mean, I guess there's a balance in that kind of marketing equation, isn't there, of getting the insight and being right or correct versus the desire for someone that perhaps doesn't want to take that approach, kind of just want it done.
Yeah, true. And I suppose there's still two points on that one. One, some people just want to go out to everybody. And it's like, whereas we're kind of like, actually less is more. Sometimes you going out to the refined audience, then actually that's going to be far, far greater for you as opposed to just going out to the masses. But once we manage to explain our process to our clients, they sort of get with the program, I suppose, really, and just trust us to actually go and do what we say we can actually achieve. And then we get the results, and then they're like, yeah, you were right with your approach. And it's like, yeah, we were, we knew that. So
Yeah, I mean that story might resonate with us a little bit as well in that sense. So, if you weren't into your data, what else is marketing to you? So, like, if you were thinking, well, you're going to market for yourselves, or if someone comes to you and said, right, you can do that, but not data. How do you grow your own business without that? What kind of things do you do? What does marketing mean outside of the context of it?
okay, for us then, another the way that I look at it is also in terms of marketing is for us it's how we get quite a few referrals. We also built some really strong relationships with lots of businesses, and that has also enabled us to actually get our brand out there, because we're a relatively small business, so we've also got to work harder against some of our bigger competitors who've obviously got a much more of a brand name because they've been established for many, many years. So we still have to obviously, get involved in going to events, even doing things like this when we're getting our brand out there as well. So there's a couple of options on that one.
And just because I think data can sometimes be a bit of a dirty word, but perhaps more through fear and anxiety because people don't understand it. It's a comprehension issue potentially. When you go out and you talk about it, and you talk about being a data broker or data solutions, whatever that might be, what's the stigma? What's the cons out there? What are you having to overcome? Because I guess as much as you've got the data story, insights, it's compelling, it makes perfect sense. You've expressed that obviously there's still a big part of networking, relationships, introducers and things like that. But what's the narrative around data at the moment, and how are you overcoming that as a business?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Actually, in fact, when we set up the business, we wanted to actually build a business because of GDPR around consent, particularly around sort of postal and email and various other areas. We wanted to build a business that was uber compliant. So on the consumer side, we focus on the property insight, not person insight, as in we don't have any personal identifiable information within our consumer arena at all. So we're just literally focusing on the address and the physical property. We can identify whether it's a homeowner, a rental, and circa 100 layers of insight off the back of each property type. So we can actually build out models and segmentation within there, which has zero PII, which is great. So from our point of view, it's completely compliant with GDPR, which gives us great comfort. On the B2B side of our business, we rely on legitimate interest. The channels available for that are via postal, telephone, and email. But within email, we rely on legitimate interest again, and we don't have any what we would deem as personal emails. So things like Hotmail, Yahoo, Live, etc. We just don't bring those into our file at all. So we're relying on the corporate email address, and as a result of that, if you're doing things correctly, then you're not going to have any issues. So we've taken a conservative approach to make sure that we don't have issues at all around GDPR. But you are right, data can be perceived as it's an uncomfortable subject because people don't understand it. But from our point of view, we believe that we've got the right solutions in place, which gives our customers great comfort.
I think just talking about obstacles, because GDPR is one of those things. I mean, I remember when it first came to, kind of the topic du jour, everyone was on about it, and it was a little bit scary. But like you said, there are ways around that, and kind of reassuring your customers that actually we are super compliant. The way that we process things and analyze our data, you've got that. But talking about obstacles, obviously you've already mentioned you are relatively new in the sector. You started in 2020.
Yes.
We all know what happened in 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that wasn't. Yes, this thing called COVID sort of came along. It wasn't quite in the business plan really. So yes, that was quite. Yeah, we launched on the 1st of February, and obviously by sort of 23rd of March, it was like, oh. So that was that was quite a scary time, and we had a plan of what we were going to do. So we had to just forge ahead with building products So we built the B2B data, property data. We also have movers data, but we did have to pivot massively and actually think, right, how can we actually make sure that we are ready when the world kind of like opens up? And we also developed an online portal for our B2B data so that can be accessed all online, which is great. So we had to adapt fairly quickly. But one of the advantage was, while a lot of organizations were all on furlough, we didn't have that luxury of doing that. So we just carried on working, and it was actually, strangely, it was easy to get online meetings, because I think people were actually quite glad to have a talk and a chat with somebody. So from that point of view, yeah, we just managed to win some quite nice projects off the back of those early conversations, which kind of like gave us the confidence to, right, we've got this. We're actually doing okay in what is probably the hardest trading environment we've ever encountered ever. So yeah, that kind of did give us the confidence.
It's a real kind of sink or swim situation. And you guys, like you say, stood the test of
100%.
time.
Yeah.
So going strong 5 years later.
Yeah, 5 years on. So yeah, it seems just like almost like a nightmare still, quite frankly. But yeah, like all these things though, it makes you stronger, doesn't it? Because you've got to deal with it.
So can you tell us a little bit about the business? It's you and Chris, your business partner, co-founders. From what you've said before in the past, off the episode, obviously, you guys are quite different in personalities and skill sets. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I think it's like a dynamic duo situation that you've got going.
You know what? We are so fortunate. Works really well. Chris is very data and tech driven. He's brilliant at building fantastic products, which obviously, pushes the boundaries of what we can do with data. I'm more heading up the sales and relationship side. But the two have just worked really well together, because we do bring different skill sets to the party. If it was, two people exactly the same, I'm not sure that it's necessarily a good thing. It's good to have, complementary skill sets. And I believe that we've definitely got that. And we're very fortunate. We've got a really good business relationship, which is fabulous.
Having that kind of tech sided brain and then the sales, more marketing led brain as well. Businesses, obviously, smaller businesses, when you are struggling to get your name out there, really fighting the competition, knowing those strengths and really kind of digging deep into those is what's valuable, right? And then also from the tech side of things, I know with the tools that you've developed, a lot of that has come from yourself and Chris. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris is a lot of the products we do. So we do we've got several different products as well, and obviously we've got the data products that we've got, but we also do a lot of data analysis. So where we would obviously, as mentioned earlier, where we will actually analyze transactional data and actually, really get under the skin of customer data to actually work out who they are, how we can model, and how we can actually build a great audience moving forward. We also do a lot of data enrichment for customers as well. So they will give us a file, whether that be business data, whether they may have just a few attributes, really, like maybe just a company name, an address, but they don't know really anything else about them. We can obviously append a lot of data set around that. So in terms of one of the other things we've got, one of the other products is around, we do a lot of data enrichment. And the way we do that, a customer may come to us and say, we've got this customer list, we've got limited information around our customers. We don't actually really understand who they are and how we can actually segment that for future marketing. So as an example, they might come to us with a company name and address, and maybe one decision maker within there. They come to us and say, right, we can append lots of insight around sort of what industry do they fall into, SIC classifications, turnover, number of employees, maybe append different contacts within there as well. So it could be C-suite decision makers, email, telephone, further data. And that really helps them to actually then go, right, now we can actually segment that to market to them in a different way, or in a sort of more enhanced way. And that's definitely a nice product, which has really helped our customers as well.
how many people do you meet that have got all of that sorted? Because I think this is my big challenge, is that we still see data as a list, an
Yeah.
Excel sheet. I think even listening to you talk about product in my brain is kind of going, well, it's just a list. It's just some email data. What's the product? What is that? And then you talk about enriching data and all those things. So perhaps well, firstly, how many do you meet that have got it nailed? Probably, I think I know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
But then what are the real benefits? What do you see people go on to do that they couldn't do? Because obviously, if you know all these additional pieces of information and you talk about segmentation, what are they going on to do that, that the average business is not even, I think maybe this is the big challenge, is that not even aware of, not even thinking about, if I know my customer better, I can do these things. So are there any stories about you can say, well, actually, we've done this, we enriched this data, and the business went on to do this and it was better?
Yeah. So 2 points. Point one is, yes, there's a lot of people that haven't got it nailed at all that we speak to. I can't name specific companies because that would be wholly inappropriate. However, I can say that even some of the largest corporates that you'd think would absolutely have this sort of thing nailed down, they just don't. And I think it's just one of those things that just isn't necessarily always seen as a priority. But when we've actually gone in and carried out this kind of exercise, the feedback has been phenomenal. And it's really helped the sales guides to then actually almost gives them a new lease of life to actually, right, oh, I can reach out to these people. This is what I should be talking to that new contact, or I didn't realize how big they were. So it does massively have an impact in a really positive way to drive sales, and it brings everything back to, a better place, really.
Yeah. So I guess that's data enrichment can really help, I guess, the size of the prize in terms of that sales team. I guess when it comes into the marketing communications as well, if you know what might be more appropriate to, if we're thinking about perhaps a finance business and we've enriched the data and said actually we've now realised they've got a fleet of vehicles, or they've got travelling sales, or maybe maybe we can finance the next vehicles and things. So we start to think about how we might be able to, structure a conversation or a campaign with them to talk about that. Whereas actually, if they've only got 4 employees, we're probably not talking about buying a fleet.
No,
of
absolutely.
things.
That's a really good analogy. And it just helps me. It helps really, once we had all this information in place for companies, it means that the marketing department can actually go and weigh in, right, actually, we should be doing different marketing to different people within the organization. And, oh, right, okay, they fall into that sector. How can we then cross-sell, upsell? It just opens up further doors and conversations. So overall, for any organization that doesn't quite have enough insight around their business, or in terms of insight, it's absolutely worth having a conversation and speaking to people that can help them to help them.
And what's the rough split of people coming to you and asking for new data versus unlocking their existing data? Because I think for me, when you go into it and go, I want to do marketing campaigns, people instantly think that's all new. It's got to be new. I need another list. I need more data, perhaps neglecting the fact that they've got this cohort of data in CRM. Maybe it's an absolute mess, which is why they don't want to touch it. So what's the split? Or maybe people come in on one hand thinking they want new data and then realizing there's so much more they can do to sweat their existing stuff. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, new data is definitely strong. However, one of the other things that we can do is we can look at both. And if we were building out a new campaign, we could obviously suppress against their existing data set. And I think it goes on 2 things. It would depend on whether it was, business data or whether it was sort of more property-led data, and how that would work. I'd say more people do buy more. However, we would always start with, because our process is to analyze customer data anyway. We would always start at that point, and it may be a case of, actually, if you did this, this, and this, that's a great starting point for you to get going. Work with that, with the new attributes that we've actually been able to deliver, and then let's have a conversation another couple of months' time to work out the next. So it can be a staged approach. It doesn't always have to be, right, I'm going to go and buy X, Y, and Z, there could be ways to use old, as it were.
And how much of a mess can I be in with my data? Because let's remove the barrier that people might go, oh, I'm a bit embarrassed, it's all over the place, or oh, it's just in an Excel spreadsheet, or oh god, it's in HubSpot or Zoho, and I just haven't paid attention to it. There's thousands of records. How much of a mess can a business be in and still be okay?
They can still be okay, but B2B data, as an example, can decay up to 30 to 35% per year, particularly amongst the larger organizations where people move around a lot. So yeah, it's just something to know. And obviously, sadly, businesses do also go out of business. So you could be in a mess depending on when you last did any housework on your own data. Yeah, you could find yourself in a bit of a pickle. So it is good to keep your data up to date and valid. But again, that's something we can obviously help with in terms of data cleanse and enhancing. So there's a couple of scores on that one.
And I guess importantly, don't do it once, neglect it again. Is get some kind of data strategy. Is that something you preach?
It would be pertinent. You can't just do this once and then leave it for another 5 years. I would kind of regular housekeeping, and then it becomes not such an onerous task thereafter.
Yeah. And then looking at the organizations, because we looked at that kind of split about the data, new versus existing. The organizations you've mentioned, there are larger companies out there that people expect to, like say, have their house fully in order. They don't always have their house fully in order. But then also smaller businesses. What are the organizations that you're servicing in terms of size? Like, is it SMEs, the blue chips?
We deal. What's so nice is that we deal with small local companies that could only be 1, 2, 3 members of staff, right their way up to blue chips that have got thousands of employees. So we cover all businesses. We can work with anybody really. There's a data solution available. We can definitely support. So yeah, size is no issue at all. We're in the process of launching this year a new product which will be a subscription based solution, which will be data audience, print and post, that will be on a subscription basis, which will be affordable for everyone. We're super excited about this product. It will be coming soon. We're still fine tuning the process, but and that will really highlight that actually we can come up with a solution for any size of organization.
Yeah, so still under wraps for the time being, but excited to see it come out.
And exactly, under wraps, but it will be coming soon. So yeah, it will be coming soon in the next few weeks, basically. We're just working out some finer detail, but then we'll be launching, which will be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question is, are there any, barriers to accessing your services depending on that size of the company? So like those smaller, but as you say, you're developing these products, and I think within the range of products that you already have, you have that kind of accessibility and scalability, is that right?
Yeah, completely. So within all of our B2B data, and there's 6.5 million businesses within there, 5 million emails available, telephone, postal. That is now all available on an online platform that customers are already using. They can identify their own audience from within the platform. They can upload suppression files. They can download the data all within the platform, which doesn't involve any support from us. So that's fabulous. Got customers that are already using that month in, month out. It's on a sort of credit basis, so almost it can be to a point almost pay as you go, which works really, really well. So so that was kind of like got that product done right. We know that we can actually then work other products. Other products that we're working on will be accessible via APIs in the near future. So we're trying to sort of push the boundaries from our side as well, so that people can have immediate access to our services online.
Can I just pick up on the fact that you said print and direct mail?
Yes,
because obviously we've operated in quite a digital world, and obviously from the narrative of COVID 5 years ago, when you set yourselves up, when it was all Teams meetings and so forth. You've just said direct mail and print. I mean, why direct mail and print? Why is that something that's still alive and kicking? Is email like is it the white space at the moment? Actually, where everyone stopped doing direct mail and they're all doing email, so we're gonna do that. I know you've had success in some of the pilot projects and stuff, so I'm just curious to kind of, it's still still live and kicking if people are thinking, oh, I've just got to join the email trail, which is getting tougher.
No, absolutely. I think it's good from our point of view. Well, from a marketing point of view, in terms of getting your product out there, you've got to use. You can't just rely on one channel. But yeah, there's definitely been a huge sort of renaissance almost of print, because you know not many people get much print post that comes through. So it's a really great from that point of view. Print hangs around in the house or the office a lot longer, and it does get opened. So we love print, but we also we like email from the B2B side as well. And sometimes you do a joined up campaign, which will be email, print, and even then a telephone call, follow up. So there's many different routes on it. But yeah, print, I really like print, and it can also link back to digital as well, because you could have a nice piece of print that comes out, QR code that links back to a landing page on the website. So it kind of like it does both, which is great. So yeah, we like print.
Yeah, I think when we talk about data these days, we're highly predicated to think about email marketing.
Yes.
So I think what you've just described there, which I'm hearing, is kind of a little bit of a the hub being the data and all the spokes, that hub and spoke approach to come. Well, actually, call people, get some direct mail and print going, get the emails as well. It's about that integrated campaign. I guess, how many people come to you with that mindset? Is there a lot of coaching and education around the embellishment and the insights, but also the activation, saying, well, you can buy this data once, but you can use it multiple times.
Yes.
How much of that education do you have to do?
Yeah, there's definitely education involved. Some of our clients do come to us and say, look, we're looking to do, on the B2B side, they might say, we are looking to do email with print follow up, and that's fine. But other, smaller organizations might be like, I'm not sure about that. How does it work? Tell me about it. So it really comes down to the individual of what they're looking for, but we can definitely help on, building a campaign led approach for sure.
And I think for the next 5 years, if we're looking forward, like you said, Rich, 5 years ago when you guys started, it was very much that digital approach. And now we're looking at this joined up more print and digital. What are your forecasts for data in the future, if we can look at the immediate future?
I think print will definitely be a massive part for us and for our clients moving forward. We've already seen huge appetite in print. I think email will definitely be there as well. And from our point of view, we want, over the next 5 years, we want to just push the boundaries of getting the best possible audience that we can build for our customers, whether that be on the consumer property side or on the B2B side. But we want to be able to make sure that we're pushing the boundaries.
So let's just talk about that for a moment. So effectively, obviously, you can sell all that data and help with all those solutions, but you're gathering the product and building the product in behind the scenes. You're
Yes.
keeping the quality of the data high, I guess. How do you do that? What's actually, I mean, without giving away trade secrets here, but how do we get best in class data in the hands of our customers?
Okay, so that's a massive question, but yes, without giving anything away, particularly on the B2B side, it's almost like a 24/7 process that's happening behind the scenes, collecting new data, for example, identifying those brand newly formed businesses. That's almost happening, on a sort of daily basis, that we're actually capturing those behind the scenes. Obviously, people leave posts, new people get promoted. We can work with that, but we have to keep that, data clean, particularly on the B2B side, because as I said to you, it does decay up to 35% per year. So if we stop doing it, we would have a big problem for our clients. So we have to keep that process on a continual basis. On the property side, new houses get built. They need to be on our file. I mean, our coverage is, 30 odd million households across the UK. But, new ones come in, things change, and we have to be up to speed with what's going on, and just constantly working on new layers of insight that we can provide back as well.
Yeah, and I guess if anyone wants to question why they pay for the services that you offer, I mean, just describing that alone is worth it. right? Irrespective of whether you get the data or something. But if you think about the time, the care, the diligence that goes into that, it really is a quality game, right?
Absolutely.
And if you don't have that quality within the data, I guess the results are compromised in so many ways. So I think that's the real value, right? Is if we've all probably thought and sat. I could probably scroll through my phone if I think about all my WhatsApp groups and how I haven't kept up to date with, people changing telephone numbers or in the wrong groups, exiting the groups. I can't even keep my phone contacts up to date in that sense. And we're talking about 30 million households, 6.5 million businesses keeping on top of that. So I think that sounds like value alone in many ways.
Yeah, it's definitely a massive undertaking, and that forms a huge part behind the scenes. But you're absolutely, we have to. That is our business. We have to, strive to have the most up to date information that we can. I'm not saying that it's not without error, because unfortunately, that's the very nature of what we're dealing with. But we strive, we strive for excellence, quite frankly, because that's what we stand for, and that's what our customers want, really. So it keeps us moving forward as well. Because when you get really positive feedback and they say, "Oh my gosh, that campaign has been brilliant," it's absolutely it's worked so well, and we're like, yes, that's what we want.
And I guess in many respects, where I was leading this is that if businesses and marketers can love their data as much as you're loving that pot of data, you've got a better chance of success.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
It's been, for me, I think, actually adding to that point on value, I think having those insights into customer data, just even being able to help a client like re-identify who their core audience is, because that's also part of it, right? Is understanding you've got the data, we're cleaning it up, we're making it this, excellent source of information. Now let's look at the actual audience and go after them. And I think that's really, really valuable too. It's been brilliant chatting with you, James. Thank you so much.
No.
Just to wrap up, where can our listeners and watchers find you guys?
Okay, so they can find us on our website, Integra Data Solutions.co.uk. We're on LinkedIn. But yeah, absolutely feel free. Anyone needs any help, just wants to talk all things data, then we're absolutely available for that. But thank you for inviting me along today.
Yeah, it's been great having you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the Get Better in Chelmsford podcast with your hosts, Richard Brinkley and Tasha Katz. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, you can tune into the full series wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks for listening.